Welcome back to Quick Bits. We have some big case updates, some closed cases, and a lot coming up this week, and some hearings you're not going to want to miss. So let's get into it. I'm legal analyst Emily D. Baker. This is the Quick Bits, where I break down just the main points of the pop culture and entertainment cases I'm currently covering on YouTube and the Emily Show podcast. Let's get into it. First, this week, I was covering all of the new filings in the Rust case going on with armorer Hannah Gutierrez. The defense has filed a number of different motions, including several motions to release Hannah Gutierrez. They had filed an appeal. They filed a motion for new trial. And the appellate court allowed the case to be remanded back to the trial court. So Judge Summer, the judge who was in charge of both the Hannah Gutierrez trial and the Alec Baldwin trial, is going to be ruling on that motion for new trial. I covered the motion for new trial, and now we have a response from prosecutor Kouri Morrissey. Yes, Kouri Morrissey is still the special prosecutor dealing with Hannah Gutierrez's case. The state responded to the motion for immediate release and has not, as of recording, responded to the motion for new trial. Though it was supposed to be filed before I recorded this, and it has not popped up on the docket yet, so it could be filed and just not populating on the public docket, but we will see. So Kouri Morrissey will be responding. I was quite surprised by the level of snark brought in this filing, given everything that happened in the Baldwin case. Again, she is just responding to the defense's request for release and arguing that the request for release is premature because there's not really an appeal pending at the moment because they're in the process with motion for new trial, and the release should be requested after the new trial motion, though we have seen people ask for release pending appeal, depending on the length of their sentence, the likely length of appeal, the strength of appeal, etc. But in the factual summary, the prosecution said this: defendant was convicted of voluntary manslaughter after she failed to properly ensure that the dummy ammunition she provided to the set of Rust was inert. First of all, this was an involuntary manslaughter case, but I digress. She goes on to say her incompetence resulted in 6 live rounds being allowed to float around the set of Rust undetected for approximately 2 weeks. Ultimately, she loaded a live round into Alec Baldwin's real prop gun, and he proceeded to break virtually every rule related to safe gun handling by actors on movie sets, resulting in the tragic death of Halyna Hutchins. That's how the motion starts, and the snark does not slow down. I broke all of that down on live stream, but when the prosecution responds to the motion for new trial, I'm sure we're going to have a lot more of the same. But is Judge Summer going to be here for it? We saw how frustrated Judge Summer was in the hearing that ended the Baldwin trial. So when this goes to hearing, I am going to be riveted. And speaking of hearings, make sure you have the Law Nerd app downloaded so you stay in the loop with all the hearings upcoming. There's a lot that's going to be happening in court in August. Most importantly, you're going to want to make sure you do not miss the Karen Reed hearing on August 9th. I'll be covering that live on YouTube. This is the hearing over the motion about the jurors. The defense has made a motion to dismiss, arguing that numerous jurors have come forward saying that Karen Reed was actually acquitted by them on 2 of the counts, and they were only hung as to 1 count. The defense asked for numerous remedies, including the court dismiss counts 1 and count 3, or the court allow the jurors to be contacted or polled or bring them into court and question them about those counts that they say they reached unanimous verdicts on. Of course, the prosecution is essentially saying no verdict on the verdict sheet, no verdicts up in these streets. We're retrying Karen Reed on all 3 counts. And that's all set against a backdrop of now 3 of the investigators in the case being under their own investigations. Plus, we've still got that ongoing federal investigation that is not resolved yet. So the prosecution's eagerness to retry this case in January of 2025 seems out of place for me. But also, we have a hearing coming up in the Kouri Richins case. Remember, the defense in that case asked to dismiss the entire prosecutor's office. They were fighting over jail calls. I will be going over the transcripts of those jail calls this week as they are related to motions filed by the prosecution. Remember, Kouri Richins is accused of killing her husband with a Moscow Mule laced with fentanyl. She was the one that was Googling luxury prisons for rich people and wrote a children's book about grief after her husband's death that she is now charged with. There are also a bunch of financial crimes charged here. A really interesting case out of Utah, and that is going to hearing this week as well. But then it will also be getting ready to go to a 3-day preliminary hearing in Utah. If that hearing is streamed, which I very much hope that it is, I will be covering that as well. And then, of course, Tom Girardi is going to be starting trial. That trial is a federal case. It is not going to be streamed, no audio, nothing. Federal courts are super locked down on this, and it's incredibly frustrating. But what we're going to see from the Tom Girardi federal prosecution is essentially what we already know out of not only the disciplinary actions from the California State Bar, from the findings in the case in Illinois, but also in the bankruptcy, and that is clients didn't get paid. So the facts of this trial are already fairly well known. What's not really known is how much Erica Girardi, or Erica Jane from Real Housewives of Beverly Hills, is going to get pulled into all of this. But whatever happens, I'm sure we will see it play out on Bravo, Bravo, fucking Bravo. This week, I also covered the TikTok psychic case. It's a defamation case in federal court in Idaho that is connected to the University of Idaho murders that Bryan Kohberger is being prosecuted for because a TikToker accused a professor at the university of those killings and has continued to double down. This is over a year and a half of litigation in, and though the professor has won their motion for summary judgment, the case is still pending on damages, and the TikToker representing themselves is still trying to get the court to either remove themselves, dismiss the entire case, rethink all their rulings. So there's going to be another hearing coming up on that, and this case is far from done. But speaking of cases being done, there are 2 cases that I started covering in 2020 that are now case closed. First, Hayley Paige. You might recognize the name from Say Yes to the Dress. She's a wedding dress designer. Early on in this case, when it was filed in 2020, the court in New York granted an initial preliminary injunction, turning over Hayley Paige's Instagram account to her employer that she was in litigation with, JLM Couture. JLM Couture, under her employment contract, had paid Hayley Paige to trademark her name and all derivatives of her name in connection with bridal wear, mother of the brides wear, bridesmaids wear, and the bridal industry for themselves in perpetuity, which means forever. So as part of her initial employment contract with JLM Couture, she sold the rights to her name to allow JLM Couture to trademark them. They were fighting with her in court over her non-compete and over her Instagram account. At the time, it was upwards of 1 million followers, and she was starting to do brand deals on that account that were not connected to JLM. And JLM Couture was arguing that that was a brand account that they owned. They owned the name Hayley Paige and Miss Hayley Paige and the rest of it, and she couldn't use that asset, that account, to post things that were not related to JLM or to her as a designer for JLM. She argued that this is an account she started and used, yes, some for work, but yes, some for personal, as people followed along with her and her journey, and of course, her as a television personality. The court granted JLM the Instagram account in that preliminary injunction while the litigation was ongoing. That injunction went up to the appellate court, so this case stopped in time very early on in the proceedings and went up on appeal. After extensive amounts of back and forth, the appellate court ultimately gave Hayley Paige back her Instagram account after the court ruled that JLM had not proved ownership of that account. And that opened the door for settlement, it seems, because JLM Couture and Hayley Paige settled the lawsuit, wherein she paid over $260,000 to get the rights to her name back. So even though that initial contract could have blocked her from using her name in connection with designing wedding dresses and the wedding industry, she now has her name back based on that settlement agreement, has the Instagram account back, and both parties have made statements to the effect that they are happy with the resolution and are ready to move on from this. But we have seen examples of artists across all kinds of different mediums allowing companies ownership of their name, and I don't think we've seen anyone who hasn't at some point expressed their frustration or regret with that. But yes, a name can be sold and trademarked by someone else. Know what's in your contracts when you read them. And if you are looking at a contract that is asking for your name, or your voice, if we're going to go the full like Little Mermaid route, have a lawyer review it. And speaking of having the right to move forward in business with their name, we have to talk about Tati Westbrook. Thank you to our sponsor, Lume. Yes, 4 years of litigation can absolutely make you sweat, and it absolutely stinks. But that's not everyone's life. You know what my life has looked like this summer? Climbing up and down the bleachers at DCI and taking my kid to band camp while the heat index is well over 100. And our entire family has been using Lume, and it has survived band camp very well. And Lume is baking soda free, paraben free, and pH balanced. It is a whole body deodorant to keep you fresh. So if you are a new customer to Lume, make sure you check out the starter pack. It comes with a solid stick deodorant, cream tube deodorant, 2 free products of your choice. And I love the mini body wash and deodorant wipes. Plus, there's free shipping. And new customers get 15% off all Lume products with our exclusive code. And then if you combine that 15% with the discounted rate of the starter pack, it's over 40% off. So make sure you are using code EDBQB for 15% off your first order at lumedeodorant.com. That's code EDBQB at LumeDeodorant.com. Let's get back to today's episode. YouTuber Tati Westbrook is a long-standing OG of the beauty community on YouTube and has been in years of litigation since October 2020, when the business partner filed the lawsuit that was written as like allegations and shade that started with, "This is a lawsuit because of the defendant's greed." That lawsuit was one of the first pop culture lawsuits I covered on YouTube. The amount of shade thrown into that lawsuit was substantial, but the business questions in that lawsuit were also deeply intertwined and legally significant. It started as a derivative lawsuit, which is, somebody on behalf of a business suing other people that are part of the business. This lawsuit spanned multiple jurisdictions. It started originally in California, went to Washington, and eventually ended up in Nevada in a very, very interesting flurry of activity between 2020 and now. On July 31st, 2024, an order for dismissal with prejudice was filed by the court. It was a stipulated dismissal of all of the cases. And getting ready to go to trial in August 2024 were 5 different causes of actions between Tati Westbrook, her husband, their former business partner, and different business entities. The amount of questions at issue were still substantial. I went through the exhibits list on live stream, and there were over 800 exhibits listed, including a few pages of YouTube videos that some of you may remember, including Bye Sister. But on August 1st, Tati posted a video confirming that the parties had settled, indicating that the parties got on the phone together without lawyers and worked out what they wanted to walk away from this case. After 4 years, I'm sure the parties have spent upwards of $1 million in litigation fees, and that's before trial. Tati had previously put out a video saying starting trial was going to cost $500,000 to start. It could go up from there. And this is after 4 years of litigation to the tune of hundreds of thousands of dollars, likely $1 million plus. So weeks away from trial, these parties were able to settle. Tati indicated that she was walking away from Halo Beauty, which was the business that was at issue in the litigations, and would also retain the rights to her name to move forward in other business ventures. During the course of this litigation, Tati had closed her beauty brand, Tati Beauty, that had a very successful initial launch of its first several products, and walked away from that because of the litigation, she stated in videos on YouTube. So the business partner lawsuits are done. Tati is walking away from Halo Beauty, the nutraceuticals company at the heart of the lawsuits, and has the ability to either relaunch Tati Beauty, relaunch other products, and choose what direction she's going without the business partner and with the rights to her name. Hopefully, the parties will be able to move forward in the way that they best see fit. Those civil litigations, like what both Tati Westbrook and Hayley Paige have been fighting over for the last few years, though different, are draining and exhausting for everyone involved. For Hayley Paige's lawsuit, the company had legally sound standing with regard to their trademarking issues, but was losing the court of public opinion because if people don't want to buy a dress under the label Hayley Paige, knowing Hayley Paige is no longer attached to it, what value does that trademark even have for JLM Couture? Because fans of Hayley Paige aren't going to buy a dress that they know she's not making and that she doesn't stand behind. And we'll see if the same proves with Tati Westbrook's Halo Beauty. It's a supplement company, but now that she's stated clearly that this case is settled and she's walking away from Halo Beauty, will others choose to walk away from that product because it's no longer connected with her? Do these products that are connected deeply to individual personalities stand without the individual? And I guess only time will tell. So thank you for being here and thank you for being a law nerd. There's lots of law to come this week. I will see you around the YouTubes and in the Law Nerd app. And I hope this week is a good one for you. Bye. For deep dives into the stories that I covered here, you can find them on my YouTube channel at The Emily D. Baker and The Emily Show podcast. I stream every Tuesday and Thursday. The podcast goes live on Wednesdays. And if you want to stay in the loop with everything I'm doing, receive the fastest notifications out there, and get more Law Nerd community, join me at lawnerdapp.com, our free app for iOS and Android.